Hi everyone, it's me, Beverly Naya, and I'm an actress and producer. And I recently produced a documentary titled Skin, which is the focus on colorism from the Nigerian perspective. Now, I felt like it was important for me to tackle it from the Nigerian perspective, considering the fact that Nigerian women are the highest consumers of bleaching cream in Africa, with 77% of Nigerian women bleaching their skin. Now, this is a really heartbreaking situation to find yourself in because it means that we have so many women who feel like their dark skin isn't beautiful. Now, what is colorism? Colorism is basically the discrimination against darker skinned women because of their complexion, where lighter skinned women are made to feel, projected to be more desirable, more beautiful, and superior to darker skinned women, which basically means that I, as a dark skinned woman, I am considered to be inferior. I don't believe I'm inferior, and there's nothing that's ever going to change that mentality. But because of society, we are made to think this way. And if we don't work on this mentality, it will affect you in every area of your life. So I felt like it was important for me to, do a documentary that tackles colorism and understands why it exists in our society. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my story. I was born and raised in London, England, and, I'm an only child. But then to the topic, I got bullied when I was young. I got bullied for various reasons, not necessarily because of my complexion. I had crooked teeth, I had bad eczema, I used to get called stuff like snake skin, and just all kinds of offensive things that really, really damaged my self-esteem as a kid and as a preteen and even as a teenager. And even though, I got a bit older and, the eczema cleared on its own and I got braces, so I was able to fix my teeth. As an adult, because I hadn't dealt with the things that I went through as a young child, I grew up feeling very insecure. And, I became a very insecure young adult also. Now I had two choices. It was either I was gonna wallow in self-pity, or I was going to work on my mind in order to learn to love myself and appreciate who I am and the way God created me to be. I chose the latter, which was to love myself and appreciate myself just the way I am. Now, doing that, I had to work on my mind and how I see beauty and how I see myself, and build my confidence. And what you see now is the woman that I've become. So I just feel like it's really important for us to do this, in order to kind of live happier lives in our society, in this society. Now, bearing this in mind, how I now ended up doing the colorism documentary was because initially, because of my experiences with bullying, I wanted to do an anti-bullying campaign. That was the original goal. But then I was doing some research on, bullying, and then I stumbled upon colorism. And I realized that colorism is an issue that is really affecting us in Nigeria. I stumbled upon a quote by a slave master in the 1700s called Willie Lynch. And he said, "Divide the black slaves by complexion and rule them for 300 plus years." Now, 300 plus years on, we are still going through this. Now, what he meant was you would have the lighter skinned slaves in the house and you'll have the darker skinned slaves out on the field. Now, what do you think would happen, in that type of scenario? You'd have the dark skinned slaves automatically, even though they're both, seen as subhuman to the slave masters, you'll have one type of slave feel inferior to the ones that are in the house. And that causes them to feel like if I was a bit lighter, maybe I would get better treatment from my slave master, So this is the beginning of that European standard of beauty. When you hear that term European standard of beauty, this is actually where it was birthed. So now in our society today, if you are lighter skinned, you are closer to European beauty. If your features look more European, you are closer to European beauty. And if you're darker, you're further away from it. And the darker you are, the further away you are, and the less beautiful you are considered to be. So based on research and doing the documentary, I just learned a lot of things about colorism and why it exists and how it affects the Nigerian society. Now, culturally, a lot of emphasis is placed upon marriage, where women feel as though if they're not married by a certain age, they're not beautiful, they're not desirable, or they're just not worthy, which is completely untrue. But a lot of women feel this way, and they feel like the only way to be seen as more worthy or desirable is to be lighter, because society has made them feel like lighter skin is better and is beautiful. So that's something something that I noticed throughout the documentary. With all the interviews that I had, and the people that I spoke to, it was a common thing throughout the documentary. When I would ask the women why they bleach their skin, they would typically say because their man wants them lighter. It was never about, oh, I just want to be light skinned. It was always a situation of, my man wants me lighter. My man prefers lighter skin and I want him to love me. That was the general, that was what I was hearing the most throughout the documentary. And it really affected me because I felt like there's just so much pressure being put on women to look a certain way. And these things are not even, they're not even stuff that you learn on your own. These things are just very, very subliminal, where you receive information and over time you feel like that way of thinking is the correct way to think, And another thing that I found really interesting was that these same women were saying that if their significant other wanted them to go back to their original complexion, that they would do it. And that broke my heart because it automatically meant that they weren't doing it because they felt like they needed to. They were doing it because they wanted to be with someone. They wanted to stay married. So they were attaining a beauty standard because they felt the pressure to do so, And I found that really heartbreaking. There was another part in the documentary that I would like to highlight as well, because it would give you a clearer idea of how easy it is for our minds to be infiltrated by what we hear and information, and allow those things to affect us and how we see beauty and how we see ourselves. Now, a very powerful part in the documentary was the conversation I had with the little girl, where I asked her a very simple question. I said, let's talk about your beauty, your black skin. What does it mean to you? And she said, her response was, in talking about her beauty, she said, well, I'm black, but I'm not black, And I said, but you are. What's wrong with your beauty? What do you mean by that statement? And she couldn't properly. I said, why do you feel this way? Where does this come from? And she wasn't able to articulate where these thoughts were coming from. All she knew was that she felt like she wasn't pretty, but she was black, but not black, which leads you to believe that she feels like the darker you are, as I said earlier, the less attractive that you are. So she doesn't want to be associated with super dark skin because she feels like the darker you are, the less attractive you are. Now, it really broke my heart. She wasn't able to give an answer as to why she felt that way. But obviously, based on my research and my understanding of colorism, I was able to understand where this young girl was coming from. 7 years old at the time. I could understand it. She has seen, over time in her 7 years of life, she has been exposed to all kinds of information that has caused her to feel as though her skin is inferior, that has caused her to feel as though she isn't good enough, or if she was too dark, she wouldn't be good enough. And that includes tradition. It includes the media, includes what she sees on TV, or even the type of toys that she's playing with. And as a result of this, she now feels as though if she's dark skinned, she isn't going to be beautiful. But because her mind is so fragile and is so young, she's not able to actually recognize or even, state at what moment in time she started feeling this way, because the information has been, she's been receiving that information over time, and subconsciously she's become that mindset. And this is what happens to us. As an adult, it happens to us as well. We have moments where we're watching TV commercials and, maybe they're advertising a new cream, or they're advertising, a beauty product, and they're using light-skinned women, and, dark-skinned women aren't seen at all in these in these commercials. Automatically, we are looking at what they consider to be beautiful, and subconsciously, we are trying to attain a level of beauty that does not exist. Or when you watch a film and the villain is dark, or the villain is wearing black clothing and the hero or the angel is wearing white. In religion, Jesus being white and Satan being dark and evil, it can infiltrate the mind in various ways. And over time, you see beauty in a way that you shouldn't. And that's what I feel like we need to tackle, which is the reason why I felt like it was important for me to do the documentary Skin, because I wanted to expose this. I wanted people to understand what it is, and hopefully, by gaining a better understanding of what colorism is, positively impact their lives, causing them to appreciate their Black beauty, causing them to understand what self-love is, and causing them to want to love themselves from within, and project that to the world. Now, I had to go through that. I had to learn how to love myself. I had to learn how to appreciate my Black beauty, appreciate my skin, appreciate my supposed flaws, because they're not real. Society makes you feel like what you don't like makes you feel like what you feel is a flaw, is actually a flaw when it's not, because we were all made beautiful in God's eyes. So because someone has a birthmark here, because it's not flawless or perfect by the media's standard, we start to see that as a flaw, when in fact it's just something on our skin that makes us who we are. We have to embrace who we are. We have to love who we are from within. We have to understand who we are and take necessary steps to appreciate ourselves, because we are causing a lot of damage internally. And if we don't work on these things now, it will definitely affect us in the future. I wake up every morning and I only have words of positivity and affirmation for myself. Things that we should practice on a daily basis in front of the mirror, as we go through our day, in a meeting, before a meeting, whatever it is. We should say stuff like, I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am enough, I am amazing, I am worthy, I am blessed. Because these words over time will affect how we see ourselves, and it will affect how we, the presence that we have when we walk into meetings, when we engage with other people. It will affect us positively, and you would see a change in how you respond to information and how you walk through life. We also have to be careful of the information that we're allowing ourselves to receive. The type of content that we read, the type of things that we watch on TV. We have to be very careful to ensure that we are recognizing how these type of shows are trying to, manipulate us to see beauty in a certain way. So we have to be aware of these things so that we can obviously watch these shows without, allowing ourselves to feel inferior, via the content that we're watching. Our children also, we have to do better. We have to ensure that our children are watching the right type of shows, that our children understand how to speak to others, that our children understand that we are all beautiful and we are all amazing, we are all enough just the way we are. We have to also watch the kind of toys that our children are playing with. For example, Barbies. As opposed, I know we have white Barbies, but we also have black Barbies too. Expose them more to black Barbies, mainly because representation is so important. And we need our children to see themselves in the toys that they play with or what they see on TV. So these are the things that I feel like are really important to kind of, ensure that we are putting ourselves in a position where we are loving ourselves and sharing that love with the world. Now, I feel like we can all do more to ensure that this conversation never dies, because I feel like it's something that we need to continue to talk about. And it's something that if we don't continue to talk about it, we will continue to raise insecure women that grow up feeling inferior because they never received enough knowledge on what colorism is and what, their beauty is. So we need to have more conversations as people. We need to be more vocal. We need to speak up in areas of injustice. We need to be able to be in an environment and see people that may be going through something and be there for them. We need to also, if we see someone that's actually being targeted because of their complexion, we need to be able to educate the person that's targeting the other person so that they can do better. For example, in my documentary, Diana Yakini, she was on a set and, the light guy said to her, if you're not if you're not light skinned by 2018 at the time, I guarantee you won't be working, That's a very hurtful thing to say. But the thing is, he thought it was a joke. He didn't mean any harm from his perspective, and that's again because he's not understanding what colorism is. Now, based on our understanding now, if someone is to say that, if I was in that room, I would have had a lot of things to say to him. Not in an antagonistic manner, but just so that I can educate him, so he can understand how saying stuff like that is extremely offensive, and so he would now have the knowledge, and because of that knowledge, he won't do it in future. That's what we need to do. We need to be in rooms where we are inspiring people, where we are helping people and just using our voice for good reasons. Now, we can do that. Collectively, we can affect change. It's not just one step. You know, I made a documentary. I'm glad that people are talking about colorism. I'm glad that people now have a better understanding of colorism, but collectively, we can do greater things. We can inspire people globally, not just in Nigeria. We can continue to inspire and impact lives. And I'm happy that we are doing that one step at a time. Love yourself. You are amazing, you are worthy, and you are blessed, and you can achieve anything that you put your heart to and your mind to. And remember, my favorite quote that I say every single place, like I say it every single day, like without fail, I say, no one is me, and that is my power. I'm gonna let you ponder on that, and I pray that it inspires you, and yeah, blesses your entire day. Mwah. Bye.